Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Risen Fallen podcast. I'm going to keep this intro short and sweet. I got to talk to Deven from Resilience Through Fitness today, and I hope you guys are going to enjoy this conversation. He's got over a decade in policing here in Canada, and he opened up a lot about his story about having to recover from both mental and physical injuries on the job. So without further ado, let's jump into this episode. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Hey buddy, what's up?
Not much, man. How's it going with you? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Plugging away.
Beautiful, man. How's your day been so far?
Good. Yeah, today was good. A little training day in and a little run afterwards, and then we got a little spot here on the lake, so it's just hanging out at the lake and doing some stuff around the shore and stuff. So
beautiful, man. What's a workout look like for you?
Depends. So right now I just started a new cycle. It's like a hypertrophy cycle. But we're training for, we're going to try to do a ultra in next year. So next summer. So we're going to do kind of progressive loading of our endurance for running, and hopefully do that next summer. So.
Wow, man, that's crazy. What motivated you to want to do that?
Not being able to walk. So whenever the incident happened, right, and I couldn't walk, other than with the boot, I just really missed it. And then I was like, all right, let's start running more. And then it just started because I wanted to build up the endurance in the foot from whenever I had broken it. So then, yeah, it just kind of just started loving it, going to that place while I was training and burning everything off. And yeah, it was good.
That's beautiful, man. So, we're already kind of jumping right into it. I don't really do too much of an intro. I'll record like a little intro for this afterward, but for people listening to this, Deven here from Resilience Through Fitness. I know that I've gone through a little bit of your social media. It's pretty cool. I like the stuff you go through, but let's hit rewind on what you were just talking about real quick. You've got 10 plus years as RCMP or police service in Canada. Here, you're over on the East Coast. I'm here on the West Coast.
Nice.
Do you want to? Yeah, I'm in Vancouver. I didn't know if you knew that.
Oh, sick. Okay. Yeah. I knew you were West Coast, but
yeah, just south of Vancouver. I live in a little city called Richmond, but it's yeah, man. I got connected with you through Garrett, and I went through your social media. I was like, this guy seems legit. But I don't know if you want to give anybody listening to this like kind of a little bit of a backstory of not just where you are right now, but how you got to where you are.
Yeah, sorry, I got 3 pugs in the background.
Oh, that's okay. We're dog friendly here, man. It's all good.
So yeah, basically, like I got 10 years in policing. I had did 2 years general duty. Then I got into the plainclothes position. Then I was doing, I think I was on my 4th year back on patrol. Came right back onto patrol during COVID after kind of 4 or 5 years in plainclothes. So it was an adjustment for sure during COVID. And then
what's that mean? Sorry to interrupt you. What's that mean for the plainclothes?
Sorry. So plainclothes would be like for us, it was like an intel section. So it's like a detective constable position. So you're rolling around in the unmarked and cultivating informants and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun. I loved it. But then during COVID, whenever they were worried about members getting exposed, we ended up boosting our numbers to the street. So I came back out on the road. So I come from a policing family. My father was RCMP for 32 years. So it was a natural way for me to go with the policing route. And my mother was a nurse and doctor of acupuncture and natural medicine. So I kind of grew up around the policing world, and it was always everything I ever wanted to do forever was get to be a police officer. I was with that classic kid, right? Like I got a photo over on the wall, and it's being a little red surge, like, just to, like, I'd patrol around the house. You know what I mean? Like, it was,
I love that, man.
yeah. So yeah, I just grew up around it. And I remember I used to get dressed in my hockey gear in their staff room, like, or in their lunchroom and stuff, and they had to take me to hockey. And so yeah, I just kind of grew up around it, big passion of mine. Um, but it started to kind of, whenever the incident happened and leading up to the incident, right? The job takes its toll on you. Um, Kind of that constant exposure to trauma and to high stress situations and stuff. And I don't think I was dealing with a lot of it in the right manner. I played a lot of hockey, played low level junior, very low level. Like, we used to pack a case of beer in the hockey bag too, right? So, I grew up always playing hockey, always playing ball and stuff like that. But then once I got into policing, I kind of lost a lot of that. I play once a week here and there, but just wasn't dealing with a lot of the stressors of the job, right? So I went from 185 pounds up to 235 pounds in just a couple of years. And my buddy just signed me up for CrossFit one day. I was like, I'm not doing CrossFit, bud. Like, no, good luck. And so he was at me forever. He was a Mountie, and out of the blue one day, he's like, "Yeah, man, your intro to CrossFit starts in October." I'm like, "No, it doesn't." He's like, "Well, you're gonna get a call from the owner because I signed you up." I'm like, "Son of a," so I did it, and I never looked back. I just it's like 6 years there. I went down from 235 down to 175, just through like healthy eating and just being consistent. And my partner, I met her at the gym. She's a sweetheart. So yeah, it just kind of changed and started to go the healthy route, right? So, and then yeah, kind of that's where it all started, really getting into the fitness field and just developing that passion for it. Seeing the transfer over to the policing career was big time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Wow,
and
man.
then yeah, and then I guess what happened with the incident, right? That was a big factor in it too. So, I was really like big time into the gym, loving it. I was training consistently, but I was having issues training because shift work, right? So you got your 4 days, your 2 days on, 2 nights on, and then four off. The rotation, you can never really get on an easy cycle. And I was always trying to play around with how to make it work and all this. It was a gaggle, right? You'd be coming off your night shift, you wanted to go to the gym and train, and it was 1 rep max deadlift day. And I'm like, well, that's not happening, right? So, and you get those munchies in the middle of the night because your body's trying to cope with the stress of being up for that long. So your ghrelin would be through the roof, and then your leptin wouldn't be able to push down that hunger. And it just, I started learning more and more about the fact that like shift works so hard on the body and it's hard to train around it. So yeah, I kind of started developing this program focused around first responders, and helping first responders kind of use fitness to help them in the line of duty. Like, whenever I got run over, I attribute fitness to massively to how I was able to come out of it relatively unscathed, minus the psychological injury. But yeah, it's been good.
I like how you just like lightly glossed over when I got run over. I like that.
Yeah. Well, and I don't like talking about it. But yeah, well, and I always kind of joke around. I'm like, what happened was it was a famous last words moment, right? So call about an open liquor in the car, somebody drinking in a parking lot. And I just said to my trainee, we had a cadet, wicked guy, solid. And I said, yeah, I said, you drive. I said, it's only going to take a couple minutes. Like, this will be a quick one. And he's like, okay, how happy as can be. So over we drive and spotted the truck and couldn't see anybody. Then we were like, oh shit, he's in the driver's seat. And I was like, oh, this isn't, here we go. So then I seen truck turn on and I'm like, I tried to get turned around. Anyways, he left, and then we initiated the lights, didn't want to stop, and then ended up going down a dirt road. Or no, sorry, not a dirt road, dead end road. And there's only a few in town, so I was like, he ain't from here. Like, we got him now. And I remember on the video saying like, oh, we got him now. It's a dead end road. Like, so Whenever we came up there, we could see the burn marks from where like he did the burnout trying to hit the brakes because he was just pinning it at that point to go down the dead end road. And so I was like, sweet, he's going on foot. So I said to the cadet, I said, I'll meet you on the other side. And just as I jumped out, I seen it thrown in reverse. And I'm like, nope. I jump right back into the SUV. And it's just us. And we're a super small police department. So that night we actually had a full big shift on. We had 4 people. So we had, and one of them was at a sudden death. So he was like, man, what do I do? Right. So he couldn't leave for continuity. And then my sergeant, best friend, always training together. And whenever I was a kid, he let me live in his basement, right? Like that type of guy. So he was coming across town, flying across town because I was giving out our location as we were going. And so anyways, so there wasn't a lot of us, right? So I jump back into the SUV. I see him throw it back in drive. And I was like, oh shit. So I seen him come across the front. I seen he had a dog. I seen him, you're plain as day in the window. He's right there. I could have reached out almost and grabbed him, but he was coming by, right? And then I almost seemed like he hit kind of a curb and got stuck. And I was like, oh, buddy, perfect. Because you got your window halfway down. We're going to have a chat. So I went, ran around, yelling, stop police, all that stuff. And I heard the engine screaming. Like the sirens are going, the lights are going. And I hear an engine revving. And I was like, what? And I kind of like, I just yelled, stop, police. And I looked up. There's a big Ford emblem and it was coming right at me. And I was just like, fuck, what do I do? Right. And the last thing I remember really seeing was the tires were pointed directly at me. And I was kind of shielded by the back of the PC or the police cruiser. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was just like, I had nowhere to go. Like he only had like, at that time that I seen the tires point at me, maybe a foot or two. And I was just like, try to do a box jump. So I just tried to jump as kind of high and as I could to get over the hood so that he wouldn't run over me, and kind of turn to the left because I knew he wasn't going to get me straight on if I kind of tried to jump. And anyways, he hit me on the right side. The SACO officer, or I didn't remember, she got a photo of, you can see where my gun kind of skidded across the side of his hood. And then I was thrown down the road. He didn't stop, just kept it pinned. And but I got thrown to the left of the truck. So that's what kind of saved me a little bit there. And anyways, next morning he turned himself in and they did a little chase and all that good stuff. But yeah, he got away for that night. But then once he sobered up, he decided to turn himself in the next morning. So yeah, so here we are. So I just had it broke. I only had my third metatarsal was broke. My left foot, at some point it broke. I don't know. I got up to run after him because then I was, mad. And as soon as I pushed off to run, I just heard that crunch of the broken foot and I was like, shit. So here we go. Yeah. So that's kind of the incident. That's kind of what sparked all this, right? That's kind of what started this road to trying to better myself and help officers.
That's crazy. So all of that's before the CrossFit and everything?
No, that happened. So this was happening June 12th of last year. So that was just over a year ago. Yeah. So I was off work for about 7 months, recovering. And the thing is too, like, I said I needed help right away, because I could tell that I was struggling. And I had to wait 7 weeks, right? Just because of the backlog in the system. So, it's tough, right? That extra, once you start going through the process, it takes a while.
7 weeks to get help for your foot.
Yeah, no. So I got into the physio within like 2 days. I called and booked my appointment before. Oh yeah, no, I was in right away. And so I was in right away for that. But to get in to see a psychologist and start getting help with the psychological injury, it was my God, it was like almost 2 months.
Yeah.
I ended up calling them at one point, just being like, I'm booking an appointment and I'm billing you. So either that or you guys get me your appointment with whoever you guys get it through. And it wasn't the department's fault. It was just whoever we go through with insurance and workers' comp stuff. So good old backlogs.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it's so concerning and alarming to I guess for most people, especially myself, I'm sure you as well, like how it's like, oh yeah, to start getting you better like physically, we got like 2 days. We're getting you back in. We want to get you moving. We want to get you walking, getting you running and get you back on
Yeah.
the streets. And it's like, no, but there's more injury than just that, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
just the physical, but it's like, no, no, our main concern is what we can see. And so
Yeah.
that's what we're
Yeah.
going to deal with.
Yeah. And like, thank Jumpins, I had a really good physio too. And he was just like, man, what's taking them so long? And he really started pushing too, because man, I was just lost I was just a number, right? I still am because I still getting treatment and stuff, right? And you're just, this is my case number, right? So, but yeah, you got to fight for yourself to get that help, right?
Why do you think that I want to say I don't know whether or not to make it specific to maybe first responders, because I've heard horror stories from pretty much every facet of first responders, from firefighters to police, nurses, paramedics. I've heard so many of the same stories of just like, yeah, I've waited for weeks, I've waited for months. I don't even bother telling anybody about this. I just
Yeah.
do it private. I don't even notify my employer. But I feel like I work in construction and it's not like it's much different there. You know,
Yeah.
why do you think it is that so many people are more like, why do you think we can think that we can deal with this stuff? Because like when you have
Yeah.
a broken foot, when you have a broken arm, you're like, oh, I'm going to the doctor. Like
Yeah.
I'm fucked. Like, like I'm going. So
Yeah.
like, why do you think it is that with mental health, we're like, nah, I either in denial or what happens there in your
I
opinion?
honestly think like it's that stigma with it. And I've heard it a million times, oh, the stigma, but like being in that situation, 100%, right? And like just seeing, how, members that have struggled in the past with stress and they're like, no, no, I don't need to talk with anybody. And no, I don't. I was like, I'm not going to be that guy. Like, I'm very happy-go-lucky, and I knew I was not doing good, right? And like, my girlfriend, she would go to work in the morning, she'd come back, my ass would be in the exact same spot it was whenever she had left, right? And I was just fucking like Eeyore. Like she used to, chirp and carry on, and she'd say I was like Eeyore, right? She's like, "Can Devin come back? Like, can Eeyore piss off for a bit?" And it took a long time, right? And like I'll tell people, like, I ended up having to get or going on a light medication because we weren't even making progress with the psychological treatments, right? So, and that was a huge, like that took a while before I even said yes to going on stuff, right? Because I was like, I don't even take Advil. Like, I can deal with this. I even was doing it myself. Like, I'm fine. Like,
Mhm.
no, I'm fine. And then, I'd be having panic attacks. Like, be at the gym and my CNS would be through the roof and I couldn't regulate my nervous system. And I'm like, man, I got to do something here, right? So, but I think it's that stigma. I think it's like, oh, if my employer finds out that I'm on medication or something, I'll be blacklisted. And you know what? Like, fuck it. If that's the way they're gonna treat you, then get a better employer, right? Like, if they put you in the penalty box for reaching out and saying you need help, then that's not the that's not a good spot to be working, right?
I
So.
think that's the most Canadian analogy you could possibly make.
The penalty box, yeah,
I
that's true.
love that. I love that.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre too, though. Like how I feel like there's this idea of like in the mental health realm, there's like this idea or notion that like, oh, it's like men have to be quiet about it, men have to feel this stigma, but I feel like women suffer from the exact same thing of like, is this not the right time to bring it up? Is there more important priorities going on right now? Like, should I just maybe keep this quiet? Do my emotions or feelings even matter? Like, should I be
Yeah.
vocalizing these things? Like,
Yeah.
did you come across those challenges to overcome, or are you still
Yeah.
going through that?
Yeah. I think like I use fitness really as a way like if I couldn't train, like I know I'd be struggling even harder, right? Like for me, fitness has just been life saving, really. and family support and all that stuff. My parents they were down all the time taking care of the three pugs because I was walking around in a cane. So, right. So I couldn't really catch up to them. So, but I do, yeah, I'd say I did struggle a bit with that. Right. And then I started struggling with you're a burden. Like I'm sitting here like Eeyore, and then she comes back from a stressful day at work, and then I'm bag of milk or something over there. Like it just wasn't, I really like struggled with that part of it, I think, where I was like, I don't want to tell her how bad I'm doing today or that I had a complete breakdown at the outside, like because I don't want to stress her out and or make her worry even more than she already is worrying about me because I was pretty open with her and she's super supportive, so she was great like with me and help and stuff. So, but yeah, 100%. I've heard members before like I don't want to say anything because they'll put me in the penalty box, and I'm like, well, fuck it, like get the help, man, like or like women. I know there's female officers that it's challenging for them in a male dominant type department, and it's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, there's no like manual or instruction, like there's no map for this kind of stuff. It's such a it's such a
No,
weird thing, man.
well, and that's it, right? Like, and then I started like noticing I like whenever I kind of got not scared, but where I was kind of like, shit, like I gotta really get this in check was, I was still drinking more than I probably should have. Now I just drink non-alcoholic beer because I'm like, this is just as delicious. And if you get the right company, like they're super tasty. So, but yeah, I was drinking more than I should have been. And then I just like noticed I was having triggers, right? Like I remember one day at the gym and I heard one of the guys going by in the police rig, the siren. I just shut down. I just was like zoned right out. And just because I heard that siren and then I just went right back to that night. Or I'd see red and blues up the road for somebody getting stopped. And I just like my heart would just escalate, right? So I think that was being in tune enough to catch that though is good. And I think that helped me narrow down what my triggers were and work through them. I couldn't even go on that street forever. I'd drive right around. I'd be like, I'll go 4 blocks out of the way, like to get around that street. So even just going over that was a phased approach.
Did you it kind of it speaks a lot about your relationship. Sorry, I was just thinking about times in my relationships where like I've struggled with my girlfriend where there's like there's this idea in my view. I think that like men are supposed to be like the rock, like the
Yeah.
thing that women can anchor down to when they're getting stressed or upset. Was there like that kind of internal pressure that you felt of like I'm supposed to be the rock and like I'm not even
Yeah.
able to do that right now? Like I feel like a pile of mud. Like I've gone through times like that in my relationship, both my current one and ones in the past, where it's like that's one of the instances where you're like, does this matter right now, or should I just be like stifling this and take care of her? Like,
Yeah, I'd say that definitely I felt like, and that's where I felt like a burden, right? Like I felt like, she's such a happy-go-lucky person and I could tell it was affecting her because like I legit had no emotion. I was just present, right? And a lot of it was because my mind was racing and it was thinking like I lost my purpose entirely, right? Like I didn't know, am I going to be able to go back to policing? Will I like it? Like and just I couldn't get out of my own head. And then like one night I remember I just like broke down crying to her. I don't think I can go back. And she hugged me and she's like, it's okay if you don't go back. Like we'll figure it out, right? And it just was like a weight off because I was like, fuck, okay, yeah, we will figure it out, right? So um I think that yeah, having that support is huge, but there is that pressure, right? Like you're kind of but she's super independent. Like if I said, she put me right in my place. She's stronger than me with the old CrossFit stuff, right? So she's pretty independent herself anyways. But if anything, she gave me more of a kick in the arse. Like, listen here, bud. Like, you know, I know what you can be, and this isn't. We're not going to do this spiral. But it did affect the relationship a lot, right? We had to work through a lot. So
that's huge, man. Like I said, it speaks wonders
yeah,
to your relationship. So congratulations, man. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. Thanks. Yeah, she's
That's
been
wicked,
good.
man. Um, there was two things that you talked about that I kind of wanted to ask about now.
Sure.
I'll go in chronological order, but you were talking about triggers and
Yeah.
trying to start to notice what the triggers could be. Maybe for you it's pretty obvious, but I feel like a lot of people, including myself, they're kind of like struggling with like why, not only like what is my trigger, but like why is it impacting me the way that it is? Like like why am I getting this reaction to it psychologically or physically even? How
Yeah.
did you start to, was that part of the psychological treatment you were talking about?
Yeah. So once I got into my psychologist, it took, like I said, it took a couple of months. So I was seeing a lot of the stuff. Like we'd be going out. I remember we went to see Tom Segura one night and it was a riot. Yeah, but the guys went by with the sirens and it was a bigger city that he was in, of course. And I just shut down. Like I was just zoned right out and and then once I got away and then I kind of was like, holy shit, then I was able to get kind of back, but it was crazy just kind of how my body reacted. And I'd have these crazy, and like I said, what happened was, what was I was struggling with was I'd be training and where my body was having these crazy reactions because it was uh like the anxiety and I was depressed, having the depression stuff on the go, but what was crippling was the anxiety stuff that I couldn't control. So my body's like your central nervous system, right? Everything's connected. So what was happening was my body was going into that fight or flight whenever I was training because it was trying to pump the adrenaline and pump the cortisol and all that good stuff, get me fired up for the workout. But then it would just ramp right up and go out of control if I went into that place and I really tried to push into like a zone 4, zone 5 workout. And I remember one workout, I just buckled. I just quit the workout and I was like down on my hands and knees and was just like, couldn't breathe. And I'm like, what the frig, right? And I was training with the owner of the gym for a competition. And he's like, what the? But he knew what was going on, but he was just like, man, like, we got a comp in a couple of weeks. Like, what are we doing? Right? Like, I was hurt. And he was great, but I was like, man, I just had like a legit panic attack. And he's like, okay, okay. So then we just started building back up, right? Just trying to build that tolerance back up. So that's what I started doing, right? Whenever I'd have a trigger, I couldn't even listen to if a phone rang, because that's how we get our calls, of course, call for service. If I heard a phone ring, I just shut down. If I heard anything that would elevate my heart rate would just take off. Um, yeah, noticing those triggers and then kind of working through them, right? Like going to the road that it happened on and just sitting there for a couple minutes and then a little bit longer and a little bit longer and kind of just phasing up that develop or kind of phasing my body back into dealing with it.
Mhm.
That's what I've kind of noticed helped.
Yeah, yeah. Exposure therapy.
Like exposure therapy. Yeah, bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big advocate for exposure therapy. I like that's like one of the big things of like how I overcome pretty much everything from anxiety to
Yeah.
stress, anything like that, man. I align a lot with the even just the words resilience through fitness. I really do align with it 100%.
That's wicked.
And
Well, yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, no, you go first.
I was just gonna say the another thing that you mentioned I was gonna ask about was like you said you lost your purpose, and
Yeah.
that was what kind of added to like the downward spiral, and that's kind of one of the common themes that I discuss all the time is like having some sort of a purpose, something to work towards beyond yourself. Um, but like, how did you figure what that would be for you? Like, how did you find that? Because I feel like everybody kind of grows up with this kind of the same idea or this notion of like, why am I here? What am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell am I
Yeah.
doing here? Just like what's the point of all this? And like for you, how did you kind of start to think about or discover or find what would be your purpose?
Well, like I remember saying to my partner, like, I don't want anybody to feel like I felt whenever I was waiting for treatment and that lost and that I was never at the point, thankfully, of like wanting to take my life or anything, but I was definitely at the point of like, I don't want to be a burden to anybody anymore. And if I wasn't here, it'd be easier for them. And I was going down that road and it was scary, right? Because I'm like, that's not me. Like, fuck, I'm super easygoing and happy go lucky. It takes a lot to rile me up. So I think that was a big thing, right? I was like, how am I ever going to go back to policing? If I can't hear a siren, how am I going to do policing? Like, my pug would run next door. Like, we live on a little peninsula here, so there's not a lot of traffic. So the dogs know the neighbors' vehicles, and they'd run over, and I'm trying to get them back, but I'm in a cane, and I'm like, if I can't get three little pugs to come back, how the hell am I going to catch a criminal? Like, and like, so then you're worrying, like, how am I going to be able to do it again? Like, I can't do a workout without having a panic attack. Like, how am I going to? So, yeah, that was a big thing, right? And then I was like, I don't want somebody to have to deal with this shit again. So I just started going down that rabbit hole of like learning about stress, learning about sleep, cold water therapy. Like, I fucking hate the cold. And I ended up going out and chopping a hole in the ice, right? Like, and it worked. Like, I love it.
That's unreal, man. It's such a weird, dude. The horror stories that I've heard, including yours from first responders, it is such a weird position to be in. It's almost like because it's kind of almost like a military position at in some level, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And anybody that's in that position has to be somehow desensitized because of all the things that you're exposed to seeing and having to operate under pressure, and it's like where is that the middle ground between like desensitizing this person and then also understanding, well, this is a fucking human being. Like we also have to
Yeah.
treat them like a human.
Yeah.
Like it's such a, yeah, I want to ask it as a question, but I know that there's no answer. There's no real answer that we have. It's such a
It's
weird
true
thing.
though. It's you get so the desensitized to it, and then but eventually like what I noticed was it was like that burnout, right? Like the repetitive over and over of or somebody gets released and then they go do the same darn thing, and so you get that jadedness with it, and if you don't have a good coping mechanism and you're drinking or you're doing stuff that's just not going to help you, like I really started to look at, okay, like I'm struggling. What can I cut out? Right. So that's why I cut right back to basically no beer other than my good old NA beers. And the reason being is I was thinking, why am I putting a depressant in my body if I'm on an antidepressant? This makes zero sense, right?
Yeah.
I know I love a good craft beer, right? Double IPA all the way. But it's, if I was like, all right, like time to, and now I drink, Athletic Brew or Libra or whatever. Like there's tons of different ones that are delicious and then I don't get that hangover and my body doesn't have to struggle with that depressant really.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, dude, it's so crazy. That's such a crazy position we put people in. It's man, it's something I think of. I always think about. There's this one incident that I had with an RCMP officer in Vancouver here. I used to. I don't
Yeah.
know if you're familiar with the downtown east side of Vancouver at all. It's kind of
Yeah, I
a
did it. Yeah, pretty rough area. Yeah.
grungy neighborhood. It's definitely
Yeah.
it's easy to find some drugs for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, you wouldn't be too challenged to find some fentanyl, but you
Hmm.
I used to hand out sandwiches during the week there. Hand out clothes, hand
Yeah.
out sandwiches, that kind of stuff. And I used to just like pull my truck up to the side of the road, drop the tailgate, have a little fold out table, and I'd throw a spread down on like Main and Hastings, which is like the down core of the downtown east side. And
Yeah.
it's like right at the crossroads, the main crossroads. And we would do this for weeks. I did it like once a week, for like over a year. And then one of the last times, this I think was the last time we went, there's like a cop comes over and he's like, pack up your stuff and get out of here, man. And I'm like, what's going on, man? Like, I'm just trying to hand out food and clothes. Like, it's like fall time, it's getting chilly out. I just want to make some people's days better. And he's like,
Yeah.
dude, people are like running across the street right now to come and grab your food. Like, and
Yeah.
then we're still kind of like jovial. Like he's like not like getting mad. He's just like, get out of here. Like he's being stern
Yeah.
about it, but he's not upset.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I go, come on, man. Like, what's the big deal? Like, why are you doing this? Like, why, man? I
Yeah.
don't understand. And he looks at me like dead, like cold ass stare, like not like mean, just like no emotion. He's like, so you ever pull a body out from under a city bus before? And I go, all right, man, that's enough. Like, I'll pack up. Like, I'm like,
Out I
dude,
go. Yeah.
like, I'm like, man, the fact that these guys, like, that's their Wednesday night, bro,
Yeah.
like, what are we doing to these people? Like, what? And then
Yeah.
it's like you would think that with that kind of a position, like that was the most like extreme thing that I like in conversation where he's like, you ever pull a body out from a bus? I go, no, man, I've never done that before. It's like, why is
Yeah.
this guy not like first like, yo, are you all right? Like, why is this? We have a doctor knocking on his door. Like, why is this happening, man?
Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah, like, and that's, I was fortunate, right? Like I was working in a small police department, so we were pretty good with some of the stuff. We didn't have a ton of stuff, but we had a lot of overflow from the city. But man, and even talking to some of the guys that are out on the highways and stuff, I was like man, like some of the stuff they see, and even talking to pops and stuff, my dad, and and whenever my pops started, it was 72. So you can imagine the mental health treatment they had back
Oh
then, which was like,
man.
my God, like you didn't even talk about it, right? So
That was the other thing I was gonna ask you is because your family's been in like policing and surrounded by that kind of you've been in that world your whole life. What like
yeah,
have you spoken to your father about that? Is that something that you guys have discussed of like, hey, this is like impacting me in ways that are making my life worse? And then his
yeah,
response is like
yeah, he
what?
was good, right? And I think it was funny, right? Because I don't know if he just didn't understand the magnitude of it. They were in shock, right? Like at the start, I didn't tell them for like a day, and then like then I was like, ah, fuck, it's gonna hit the news because that's probably gonna hit the news. I should probably tell them, right? So yeah,
That's why you tell
I
them.
was,
Yeah, it'll probably be in the local news here.
yeah, yeah, it's gonna like pop up on the news here soon. So, but yeah, and it was Dad never ever brought work home. That was something that I struggled with. Was I would if I had a bad day, people would know because I was a grumpy or just But he was always good. He'd come back happy as kind, right? He'd leave work at work. He'd come back. So I didn't see a lot of that side of it. But in talking, you know, I remember him saying, well, if you don't go back, what about your pension? And I was like, what if I don't make it to my pension? Right? What if I, get hurt again or I spiral really bad or like, what's a pension if you're not around to enjoy it or able to enjoy it? Like, I don't give a, it started. And whenever he kind of heard me say that, I think he was just like, fuck yeah, like he's struggling here. Like, and then he opened up about stuff that he had to deal with, right? And but he kept all that to himself growing up because he didn't want us worrying about him, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, growing up around it, there's that pride factor, right? And it's like, I even had a distant relative that said, "Really? Like you're still off? Like your foot's healed?" And I'm like, "Well, my head's a little messed up, and I don't know, I just didn't think that would bother you that much, right?" Didn't mean anything bad by it, but it's just when they came from. It's their, they just were like, "Oh, really? Like you're still off?" I'm like, "Holy fuck, yeah, I'm off." Like, so,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think there was that pride factor, but I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I want to be happy. I want to work through this, get myself back squared away, and if you have to fight with management to get, a return to work that works, then that's what I'll do. Like, so
Man, it's such a huge like an epic amount of responsibility to put on people. As somebody that just like wakes up, goes to a construction site every day, goes and trains, works out at night, it's such a crazy thing to think about. Like people, their day jobs of like, yeah, this is what I deal with. I'm like, oh, okay, sweet. What's
I
my
remember, well, I was a
existence
heavy
for?
equipment operator for 4 years. And I always, every time we drive by a construction site, I always say to my partner, I'm like, what I'd give to be in that excavator right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like just hanging out, listening to some, ACDC, just happy as can be. Like, but I remember whenever I was a heavy equipment operator, you get annoyed at this and that, waiting for parts or whatever, right? Like
Oh
everybody has
yeah.
their stresses, right? So.
Yeah, and man, yeah, I've worked in some pretty much, yeah, I've worked in some silly work environments, and you'll find shit to be upset about, man, for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah. But I think it was that, like I used to get excited about that unknown where the phone would ring and I'm like, what we got, right? And 911 at whatever, and I'm like, ooh, baby, right? Like I'd be excited. And it just turned into like, I don't want to hear that phone ring. I don't want to have to talk to anybody. And, like I just didn't have that drive for it anymore, right? And it was a struggle, definitely a struggle.
It must like when you're riding the highs of like, yeah, this is going great. It must be such an adrenaline rush for the phone to ring. You're like, oh
Yeah.
yes. Cool.
Well, that night too, it was so funny because I had a foot chase, the same guy. We were like cursed, me and him, like we were always into shit. And my sergeant, and I remember this guy bailed on foot, and like you can hear us talk, and he's like, "Is that so and so? Like, I think he's got a warrant." And I'm like, "Man, like I just want to get my breakfast and my coffee." Like, no, like he's like, "No, I think that's him." I'm like, okay. Sure as shit, buddy bails on foot, and all you can hear it in the video. All you hear is "I'm out," and then I'm just poof, gone, running after him, like happy as can be, right? Like 6'2" with long getaway sticks. I was like, yeah, there we go. Um, so like it was a riot, and I'd always be super excited for it. It's the same thing that night, right? I'm like, this is going a little sideways, but he's going to bail on foot. I'm going to probably catch him within a couple of tree lengths, and we're good to go. And but then it just all of a sudden just everything went sideways the other way, and I was like, that did not go as planned.
Yeah. Not good to go after all.
Yeah, not good to go. Yeah,
Not
yeah.
good to
So
go.
then it just started kind of working through, right? Like, and I still struggle with it. Phones ring and your heart rate just straight back up, right? So, but recognizing it and having that, I always say the finger on the pulse and having the win mentality, man, my girlfriend must be sick of me saying it. Like, we got this win mentality, like having the win mentality that like, I'm going to be fine. I'll work through it. We'll get through this it was just a real turn of the page for me. Like it was really like, all right, like we're gonna push through and get this and get better.
When did your mentality shift from Eeyore to win mentality?
That's awesome.
On a
Yeah, it
scale.
was. It was Eeyore, man. It was like so I'd say it's shifted kind of whenever after I got in to see the psychologist and started kind of, she's like, yeah, this is like a natural recovery process. Like your body's gonna go through this stuff, right? So, I noticed a change though whenever I really was like, I cut back and cut out drinking, and I was just like, I just like my mindset shift. I'm like, I'm not fucking spiraling, and I'm not going to be drinking booze straight time. I'm going to take my focus. I'm going to put it into the gym, and I'm going to get back to, because I hit like the 2 weeks before that, I hit all PRs. It was fucking the best week, man. It was just ding, ding, ding. Like everything was going great. And then I got run over, and then it was like, I can't train. So that's how I've been coping with the stress of the job. How am I gonna cope? Like I had no way So I think my mentality changed whenever I kind of realized that again. And I was like, I got to keep at the gym. Like, and I remember my family doctor was like, Deven, you got to keep at the gym. I was like, I do, but I don't, I get anxious. I'm walking around. I can't even carry a 45-pound plate because I got a cane in the other hand. And, so, and he's like, push through it. Like, say at 10 o'clock every day we're going. And I'm like, fucking all right. Right. So I just started doing it. And then I kind of seen how it was helping me, seeing the progress, and my mood was changing. And then I was like, fuck, this can be something. Like, this can help officers and help civilians. Like, I have clients that are civilians, and they'll tell me about the stressors of their day. And, I'm not a trained psychologist or anything, but, I've been through a pretty fucked up incident, and it, started to beat me down. But having that win mentality and the drive to kind of make it to the other side, I think that's crucial in any job and in any kind of psychological kind of injury or event, right?
Yeah. Do you think that you would have been able to use fitness as a tool to help your mentality, your psychological state as easily, or like do you think you would have been able to use it if you didn't already have that background of like kind of preemptive, like taking care of yourself?
Yeah, oh yeah. I think it's been a road, right? Like I said, I was 235 before. I had a solid liver on me, but now I barely do a pull up, So, I didn't. It wasn't. I wasn't coping the right ways. Like I said, I wasn't doing that. But I still remember whenever I was 235 and I got in the foot chase, and I bowed in the side of a brand new Mazda 3 with Buddy, right? And didn't get far. So I was still able to kind of get through, but I was in nowhere's near the mentality and the shape that I was in at the time of the injury, or that I'm at now, right? So, I used to always say that my 235 was like my counterweight, right? On an excavator. That was my tackling weight. So I might be tired when I get you, but I'm gonna get you. Yeah, so.
I love that.
Yeah, the old counterweight.
But do you know what I mean? Of like you were at like hitting PRs right before your injury, right?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
think do you think that because you were in such good shape, it kind of cushioned the blow a little bit?
Oh,
Maybe?
okay. Yeah. Yeah. I see what you mean. 100%. I don't think I would have had, because like as soon as I seen the truck was coming, I was like, fuck, right? Like, so I just kind of jumped and kind of tensed up, like this is gonna hurt. And I think that saved me. If I would have just been like a rag doll and fell, or in kind of half, my momentum was going that way, so I had to kind of stop and cut back the other way. So if I would have been, overweight or not as kind of paying attention or whatever, like, yeah, I think it would have been a rough go. I think fitness is a big factor in what saved me, right? Um, because like I said, I jumped, thankfully it wasn't a big truck or a big 250 or something. It was just a little quarter ton, but um, the hood still hurts whenever it hits you in the hip.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding, man.
Right.
But also like the pathways in your brain of like the reward system of fitness of like,
Yeah.
okay, I know this sucks, but I've dealt with similar things in the past, not getting hit by a car, but or a truck,
Yeah.
but like this sucks right now, but if I can endure like a certain amount of pain, I'll be stronger, I'll be more formidable. Like just the neurological pathway of just of I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is because I feel like a lot of the time we wait until we have symptoms of something to start making like changes in our lives. We don't like
Yeah.
preemptively
100%.
make changes and be like, oh, this could suit me
No.
better in the future. Like I should do this now. It's always like when something sucks, we're like, fuck, I gotta change everything.
Yeah. What's NSF mean on my debit? Oh, I'm broke. Yeah, I got to make a change, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, for real.
no, yeah, I think that the big thing, right, is, and that was one of my certifications with precision nutrition for like sleep, stress, and recovery, was understanding this job's going to beat me up. This job's going to mess with my sleep. It's going to elevate my cortisol and put me at risk of diabetes if I'm not keeping my food in check. But understanding that, like, for me, I always get the munchies at like 3 a.m., man. Like, or 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I'm like, my body's hitting that wall. YouTube ain't working anymore, and I'm like, I'm crushing it, something unhealthy right now. So, but understanding that and being like, all that is it's my body trying to get that dopamine and trying to get me out of this stress state, right? Understanding that and preparing for that, right? Like packing something that's sweet and healthy, but not um, not something that's just full of carbs and going to go right to your fat tissue, right? But understanding too, like what I really noticed was with training, your body has a stress response, right? So you got your, every good old times, like right now we're at homeostasis, right? Everything's good, hanging out, shooting the shit. But then whenever you're training, your body doesn't know the difference between good stress, bad stress. So whenever I got hit, that was a distress, really bad stress on the body, right? But because I had trained with the good stress, the eustress, and building up my body's tolerance and my body's capabilities and stuff, I was able to kind of go into that state and kind of like get through it, right? So, your body has a stressor on it. It builds up a little bit of tolerance. Then you go a little bit harder, right? Like nobody goes out and runs a marathon without getting like heat stroke on the next, and then right away. You gotta you gotta do a little bit of training to it, right? And all it is building up your body's tolerance, so that it can recover, rebuild. That's a big factor.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
think that the
100%.
fitness helped a lot with that.
Yeah, and I just it fitness has always to me been like the perfect metaphor for exactly what you're talking about, of just like whether it's lifting weights or doing a martial art or anything like
Hmm.
cardio related. It's just like, how can I get myself to a level of uncomfortability that is survivable but also
Yeah,
is sucks, like sucks a lot.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's like today I was doing just a 40K steady state run, and I had a pair of joggers, and a sweater, and my
40K?
hood up. No, 40 minutes. Sorry, 40
Oh
minutes.
God.
Yeah. But yeah, imagine. No, and
Just running a
but I was
marathon
just
real
like,
quick.
yeah, yeah. But just kind of like, and a lot of it's just trying to get better and better with the heat, right? Because you got all the body gear on, and your body just gets so beat up with the heat and all the extra poundage of gear. So running with a weight vest, running. So then that way, whenever somebody doesn't want to chat and they take off on foot, I'll be used to having that extra weight on my body to run with. So I think it's all about training the body and the mind to be able to deal with what we have to deal with and what the general public, if they have a stressful gig or if they're having outside stressors, being able to cope with that, right? Sometimes people use it to burn off and burn off the stress. I remember lots of times I put that five finger death punch, or I don't even know, some angry old music, right? And I remember the owner of the gym used to say, "Oh, Devin's got his happy music on." Like I just have a rage and corn, or God only knows what would be on. And he's like, "Oh yeah, he's in one here," and the skier would just be, I'd be ripping the cord right off the thing, right? So, but I burned it out and I felt great.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like as well, like it's nice to it's like it's like a car on a hot day. Like it's nice to just like turn off for an
Yeah.
hour and let the engine cool off. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's what I always say about my workouts, is like that's like an hour of putting myself through something that sucks so bad that my only internal dialogue is how shitty that is. Like there's
Yeah.
no other stresses from work or from my relationship or finance or any other area in life. Like it needs to be physically uncomfortable enough that that can only be my thought. Like just that, an
Yeah.
hour of turn off.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. And it was funny because I remember like that's why I got into the cold water therapy was I I was just like I was kind of making progress and stuff, but I was still having the issues with the CNS, right? Like my body would just go into that fight or flight and I couldn't regulate it back down. And I just kind of went into that, just looking into cold water therapy and looking how the body's quick snap response, right? And trying to calm yourself back down. And I think the coldest I went into this year was minus 37. We had a
Celsius?
instant frostbite. Yeah, we had
Dude,
an instant frostbite. Yeah, yeah, we had an instant frostbite warning, and and our power was out. And my girlfriend's like, "You're not going out today." And I was like, "Now I am." So, so yeah, it was. She's got the video. She's out there with like a friggin' big old jacket on, and yeah, I chop a hole in the ice with the axe, and plopped in.
Dude, that's insanity.
Yeah, yeah. So that
How
was the coldest I went out, but
how long did you stay in that?
for that day, it was insane because they had where we're at on the lake we're in, we're on the peninsula. The wind just howls whenever it goes through, and we're out on the point. So it was windy that day. So I think I was only in for like a minute or so, minute or two.
Dude, even
Um,
that.
but yeah, and then I was like, I'm out. And then by the time got up there, I was walking like friggin' Tin Man because I was so cold. I couldn't feel my feet, so I couldn't walk. So I was just walking like peg leg shuffle and trying to get through the snow.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious,
So,
man.
but I started doing it every couple of days, right? I'm training my body to kind of deep breathing and bring my heart rate down. And I had a Whoop strap, um, just to kind of monitor my stress and recovery. And I'd use that, and then I could see like where my heart rate was spiking and where it was going down. And I try different things, right? Closing my eyes, meditating, embracing the cold, which did not work. It did not last whenever I thought about how cold it was. But yeah, it's all about training the mind too.
100%. I 100% agree with that. Um,
Yeah.
this is just like a random thing that I was just thinking about is do you think
Yeah.
that it is so like you can take all the factors that help you in your journey, right? And a lot of these things I've got
Hmm.
experience with as well. Some of them I don't, obviously, but some of them I do. What was I
Yeah.
going on about? Oh, so there's all these different factors. Sorry, man. I'm a little bit random.
You're
It's
good.
just it's the way my brain works. But um, so if you take like all the factors of like exercise, eating better, maybe drinking more water, sleep like is huge. It's another like massive part of it. Um, training your mind to deal with uncomfortability with cold plunges and I'm sure workouts. There's all these different factors that like kind of add in and I think we could both agree would like make your life better, make your life more
Yeah.
more survivable and enjoyable. Um,
Yeah.
do you think that it's the combination of all of them at once, or do you think that if you have like, say you have like four of the six pieces, you're like, oh, okay, I'm floating around like an 80%, or do you
Yeah.
need to have every base covered?
I think you just need to make I just need to make a step, right? Like for me, it was just, I'm done drinking. Like we're done. Fuck that. And then kind of being like, okay, I'm going to the gym, every day this week. And I was there pretty consistently during my recovery anyways, if not every day. But I think that it's, you just need to make a step. You just need to start, right? With whether it be, I'm going for a walk. Like whenever I really started making progress, I remember my partner saying like, just take the dogs for a walk somewhere. It's like, you can walk, you don't need your cane anymore. I'm like, okay. And then I just started taking them for little walks, right? And little walks. And then we started going on hikes and I'd listen to podcasts and then it just became a habit. If I didn't go, I felt fucking weird for not going for my hike, right? It's like
Mm,
if I don't go to the gym now, I feel weird. Like, what do I do? Like, I think that, but none of that shit would have happened if I didn't make that first step and just say, okay, we're doing this, and then we'll work at that, and then we'll build on it to this. And it's like exposure therapy, but right, you're just trying
mhm,
to.
mhm.
But the biggest thing is just making that first step. If you don't have all six things checked off, well, start with one, and then we'll get there.
Yeah, yeah. Just like gradual, incremental, like kind of building the momentum in that way.
Yeah, and like, I mean, if you want to go right into it, good luck. You could do it, but I think it's a lot, right? It's a lot on the body, right? If you're like, okay, I'm going to do CrossFit, I'm going to be carnivore diet, and I'm going to do right. Like it's a lot. It's a lot on the body, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And more chance that you're gonna, if you just pick at one little task and then get that covered, and then go into the next thing and just build on it.
Mhm. And do you have like is there like a routine that you've followed, like that you repeat on a daily basis, or are you kind of a little bit more go with the flow with it? Like are you all about that discipline and structure, or
Yeah,
how does
for
it
me, I
work for you?
found, and I don't know if it's from the injury or what, but I find I'm very very forgetful. So I don't know if that's the good old medication causing that, or if that's just my mind always raced into every different thought and process. So,
Maybe I'm on that
um,
medication.
yeah,
Fuck.
yeah, and that's yeah, I forget shit all the time. So what I do is I do have like a little bit of like I got my Google Calendar, my Apple Calendar, and everything's in there, like everything. I even put in there now just to make a conscious effort. I got my fitness in there, so I got like we're going to the gym from this time so that I don't accidentally book in a client for that time, and then all of a sudden I'm like I don't train at the end of the day. I'm a morning person. So by 5 o'clock, I'm like, you ain't no dumbbells getting curled today. Like, not happening.
Yeah.
So I like to work out in the morning. So I make sure that I get my training in the morning, or I make sure I go for a run. And definitely a routine works for me. But some people hate routine. Some people are just free spirit and let her rip, whatever works. And that works for them. So everybody's different, right? And that's one thing with clients is figuring out what works for them. And then we roll with that.
Hmm. So, uh, like with resilience through fitness, what like obviously you go through your injury,
Mhm.
and then you're back at training, you quit drinking, you're monitoring your sleep, like you kind of have this culmination of like all these good habits coming through. When did resilience through fitness get born? When was that idea?
It was
Um,
actually it was born just kind of through the journey. And I started taking a lot of courses. And then I took my L1 in CrossFit to be a coach. And then I took the sleep stress and recovery nutrition course I'm working through. And just like, it just kind of went from really wanting to help, a few people and help my colleagues. And it all started, I was wanting to do this like monthly newsletter type thing and just with sleep stress and recovery techniques and maybe some training options. And I was like, yeah, it's gonna bore me in no time. Like I need more than that. And I just kind of bit by bit just was going more and more into it and get more involved and seeing the need with first responders and seeing like people are like, how are you getting to train? Like you're in between your nights. And I'm like, well, in between my nights is my rest day because my body needs recovery and it's stress. Like, my first day off, I'm just going to go for a walk and get my circadian rhythm reset. They're like, what the fuck is it? What are you talking about? And I'm like, wow, your body, right? And so like, and this was all stuff I was learning. And then I was trying to help them. And then I remember legit one night, I just like woke up and I was like, resilience through fitness. That's it. That's perfect. It's everything that I want to do. And then I just like, I remember I came downstairs and just wrote it in. And then I woke up the next morning. I'm like, all right, here we go. And I just been going ever since, right? Just kind of taking more courses, coaching at the gym, doing online client programming and then taking programming courses to figure out, periodization for clients' fitness. And then I was like, fuck, I guess I gotta register this name and shit. Like it just kind of took off, and I'm like, man, all right, here we go.
I love that, man. At
Yeah,
what point did you, because obviously it's like kind of like a gradual process. It's not like it just like you wake up one day and you're like, I'm fucking better. This is awesome.
yeah,
Like
no, yeah,
it's
yeah,
definitely like, gradual. Well, at what
yeah,
point did you like, because there's the point of like, okay, I'm at my lowest of my lows, and then you get to like, okay, I'm doing pretty good. I'm feeling pretty solid. I'm functioning pretty much what I would consider normally. And then there's the next step of like, I'm ready to help other people with this now.
yeah.
Like, when did you get to that point?
I think I got to the helping other people fairly quick. Like it was, within probably. I started back to work after 7 months, and I was definitely like doing really good. And then I noticed I regressed a lot over those, I guess it'd be about 6 months afterwards, just with calls and stuff and noticing the regression. The stress from the shift work alone was just starting to eat at my body. And I was really, really struggling with kind of keeping that momentum. So I just kind of dove headfirst into it, right? I'm like, all right, I'm doubling down. Like, I got to keep training. But it's a struggle, right? Like, it's, like every now and then I struggle with nutrition. Like that's fucking, I love a good cookie, right? Like
Dude, that's my
it's just it.
weakness. That's my
Yeah.
fucking weakness. Baked goods, dude.
Yeah.
That's my kryptonite.
Yeah. So I think like, but I know that about myself. So I try to mitigate and, like the other, like, I remember one of my colleagues said once, he's a beauty. He went through my troop and year back in 2013. And he's like, he said it the best. He said, I eat good on days that I'm off because I eat like shit when I'm at work. And I was like, well, 4 out of 4 is not bad. Like, it's pretty, it's 50-50, right? Might get
Yeah.
you a pass, but like, and but he just understands, like, he just doesn't eat great whenever he's at work. And he's like, so I eat really good whenever I'm off work. Right. But yeah, to go to how did I help people? Like, I think like I said, I didn't want people to have to go through those struggles and stuff. So I just kind of was like, I gotta really get at this and seen the need for it.
Do you think that wanting to assist other people aided in your own personal recovery?
Yeah, I think so. Because and then too, like I'd be talking to people and I'm very open about my story because the stigma needs to piss off. Like people have their issues and their struggles, and some people are more resilient to it than others. Like, um, but I started seeing the need to it where I'd open up to somebody or talk to somebody about it or be like, "Are you good?" And they're like, "Actually, man, I'm fucked. Like, I had whatever went on today," and I'm like, "Oh shit, cool. Like, do you need any help?" Like, even just an open ear sometimes was huge. Um, so then I kind of seen like, this is helping me because I'm helping others, and I can't go down that road again because I got to be good for them, right? And it kind of gave me that drive to keep progressing so I could help them out too. Um, and two, just so that I wasn't that extra stressed too with my partner. She was busy as all hell at work too, and I just was like, I don't want her to have to deal with me being squirrely again, right? So
Did you have you dealt with like kind of the imposter syndrome at all of like and you were talking about regression. That's why I bring this up because I feel like
yeah,
a lot of the time we make progress in an area of our life, like maybe
yeah,
like finances or mental health or fitness, where you're like, okay, I made all this progress and now I took a step back. Have I gotten any better at all? Like you kind of like
yeah,
start doubting yourself. You're like, maybe I am a piece of shit. Maybe like
yeah,
I'm not as cool as I thought. Maybe I'm not as good at
yeah,
this. And
yeah.
then furthermore, it's like even more responsibility because you're helping other people. You're like, man, I can't even help myself, and I'm supposed to be helping
That's
other people. Like, did you deal with that? Do you deal with that
yeah.
still?
I still deal with it. So I'm right now I'm currently taking some time away from work. And the reason being is I was struggling, right? I was having those regressions and starting to come apart again, right? Thankfully I caught it and I was like, I'm done, doing this and I got to try to get myself squared away. So then I'm like, all right, right on. Here I am coaching resilience through fitness and I'm off again, right? So then you have that imposter syndrome, like who the hell is going to come and want to train with me if I can't even keep going at my gig, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, I think that there's a silver lining to it of like, you know, I want to train my body to be the best it can be, to have the best career I can have. And it's not going up isn't, recovery is never straight up. It's never a nice little yodeling guy going up the, Price is Right thing, right? It's, we have those drop offs. So you're going to go
Yeah.
up for a bit and then you're going to have a shitty go or a couple of bad calls or whatever. And then you're going to have your little setback and you're going to make it back. So you're always going to have those hills and those valleys. I think it's having the win mentality that I'm not going to let it beat me and I'm going to fucking fight through this. That's what matters. But yeah, there's definitely that factor, right? Like that imposter where you're like, how the hell can I help somebody if I'm struggling myself? And it's like, no, like we'll get through this together. We're a team. And so I always tell my clients, like, not me badgering you what to do. It's we're a team and we'll get the results you want and we'll work through this together, right? So that's a big thing.
Yeah. Did you, or do you think that you did you ever have like, I'm sure you had moments where you were like, maybe I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can't be a first responder anymore. Like, do you still deal with that imposter syndrome at all, or do
Yeah,
you
yeah, I
see?
do. Yeah, I do. I remember I went, and I said earlier one night I just broke down saying I don't think I can go back. I don't think I can do this, and got through that and got back to active duty. I remember one day like we had a bad call. It was thankfully everything went good, but guy was trying suicide by police. He was cornered. There was like a fence line. He was kind of cornered in there, and he was flipping open the knife and closing it, flipping it open, closing it, and he was saying, you guys are gonna have to shoot me and blah blah blah. And then eventually it just kept on getting worse. And I'm dying here in a couple minutes. And there I was second car on scene, third car. So I snuck around, crawled around, and crawled through the neighbor's drive or parking or backyard. But I couldn't get over because I had a taser out because I was like, I got to try to, get him here somehow. But he's on the other side of the fence and he was checking over the fence and I was hiding behind the neighbor's, uh, garage or whatever. And I was like, fuck, like if I don't grow a set of nuts here and crawl out and taser him in the back somehow, then he might rush them and then they got to shoot him. Or what happens if they shoot him and then I'm over here? And I didn't even realize they were trying to get a hold of me on the radio, but I had my radio turned down because he was preeking around. I didn't want him to hear it. So, so they're shitting their pants thinking, well, where the hell is Kennedy at? Like, if we open up on Buddy, then maybe we'll hit Kennedy, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I've been pretty open with my coworkers. They know my struggles. So they're like, where's he at? Right. Um, so yeah, it ended up working out great. He took a lean on the fence and I got a taser on his back so that we got him before they rushed in and got him before he could grab the knife. So it worked out good. But I completely just shut down. Like as soon as it was done and Buddy was on his way to the hospital, I was shaking like a leaf. I couldn't answer the radio. I went back to the office, couldn't get my thoughts together, and I was like, I can't be here. And one of my coworkers gave me a hug. They're like, "It's okay, man. Go home for the day." And then I was off for a few days. Right, I just couldn't. And my body just was like that decompression from that situation, just completely buckled me. Um, so yeah, I think that there's that imposter, like, oh, right on, like he has to go home after a call like that, right? You're like, kind of pussy am I, right? Like, but at the same time, I knew that I couldn't deal with the public or more calls that day, and I knew I was tapped, right? And I think that at the same time having the willpower to say no, I need help, I need more help, I need something else. This isn't working. Is a lot more than just I think it saved a lot of regression for sure. I'll never lose that win mentality. I always say, fuck that. That ain't going anywhere anymore.
I love that, man. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
again, it makes me think again of like when I was saying earlier, like the amount of the epic repercussions of a job like that, of like
Yeah.
such a
Yeah. Like
crazy
I'm
thing
like,
to think about, man.
it's so true. And like 2 seconds before we're shooting the shit, me and my partner, and we had our two PCs and we met each other on patrol. We're just having a yarn about hockey and this and that and carrying on. And oh, so and so's got a knife, and we're like, here we go. Right? Like, and
Yeah.
it's just, and then you get there, and then you're like, this is not, that complainant was not over exaggerating. Like, this is going sideways, right? So, it's just building, and that's where I think like my passion comes with it is building people's tolerance up to be like, all right, this call is going to be nuts. I got to take my deep breaths. I got to get myself centered. I got to work through this. And then if my body shuts down at the end of it, whenever it's all said and done, so be it. But we got to get through this. I can't shut down yet.
Mhm.
Because I noticed I was starting to shut down at the call, right? Where I was just like, I was trying to turn my taser on, my hands were shaking so bad. And I'm like, man, like I used to be pumped whenever we get calls like this. And here I am just shaking like a leaf, right? But I'm like, we got to get through it. So got my shit back together and then dealt with it. So yeah, I think it's yeah, get through it.
Yeah. What like if you could if you were the king of the world, I guess is a good way to start
Yeah.
this off. If you're the king
Yeah.
of the world,
Yeah.
like if you're omniscient, what
Yeah.
changes do you would you like to see in terms of maybe just how mental health is looked at or dealt with in society?
Yeah. I think like it's on the right track. I mean, even in the 10 years I started, I noticed, a positive progression for it. But there's still that stigma. There's still the penalty box whenever you go back to work. There's still the digs from certain people or even some coworkers being donks, right? Like, oh, don't send Kennedy. He's gonna might shut him down if he goes to that call, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna go in there, flip your desk. So there's still that there's still that stigma with it, and I think it takes people like you and people that are going into podcast, promoting stuff on podcasts, or just people that are like, fuck this, like this isn't right. I had to fight to get a gradual return to work. um their gradual return was pretty quick, and I was like, not we're not doing that. So it was a fight for a while, and you know, so be it. Maybe they're pissed at me, but it had to be done. There was no way that their idea was gonna work, and it was ridiculous. And everybody's different, right? Some people go through those incidents and they're good. Some people are still off, and I think there just needs to be that less stigma with it, and people need to vouch for themselves. And if they're not okay, they're not okay. Say they're not okay. We're gonna get better. We're gonna get there. We just gotta put the work in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a weird, especially with career paths where it is such like a huge, there's like epic amounts of repercussions mentally and physically if you're not
Yeah.
of a sound mind while you're at work. Like it's like
Yeah.
you'd be putting not just like officers but society at danger of like,
Hmm.
dude, you can't be here. Like like
Yeah.
there's this weird like it's like a balance of like because this is something that I think about all the time because I don't know, I obsess over mental health and psychology, and I think
Yeah.
about like there's the two extremes of like, okay, we take feelings and emotions and all of these things to the utmost importance, and then it's like, well,
Hmm.
then we probably can't get the job done because there has to be
Yeah.
some level of like, okay, this is not emotional time, this is act on what's important time. But then the other flip
Yeah.
side of that is like if you never address those emotions, then you also can't get the job done because it's like this guy's
Yeah.
blowing his lid, screaming at a guy over some verbal altercation. Like it's like there's actual issues to deal with. You're not focused,
Yeah.
right? Like it's like
I
where is the
think
happy
like
medium?
I think like even just checking in on guys, I've been a big supporter with that. Like it was massive just whenever guys would just reach out and be like, hey man, like I'm not gonna bother you, but if you ever need anything, just reach out. I'm like, oh fuck, thanks man, I appreciate it. Like, and they'd have their own issues on the go, but they took the time to reach out and be like, hey, whatever you need. Um, and I think like whenever employers are legit, not because they have to be, but legit giving a shit about their employees is huge. And if they're really like, take some time. Like I know my supervisor that day that after the ninth call was great. Like they had a gong show of a calls coming in, like, and it was like a busy day. But that sergeant knew like Devin's not good right now. Like he's got to take the day. Um, so, but that meant so much that they were just like, nope, you're good. Get out of here. And I'm just like, really? Like, I thought it'd be a fight, right? Like, um, and so, yeah, it was really good. And meant a lot. And I think that having an employer that gives a fuck is a big factor.
So all in all, you'd say kind of like positive experience in terms of like dealing with.
I'd say it was hit and miss. We're a small department, so I'll vet a lot of the details out. But I think I had a lot of.
Hey,
It was
don't
a
get
lot
in
of.
trouble over this, man. Trust
Yeah,
me.
yeah, we're good. People always laugh.
Yes,
They
they're
say, you pick
perfect.
her up.
They're awesome. Everything's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
It's the government.
No,
It's
yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's good. I think there needs to be changes though, like you said, like with that mental health side of it, like there needs to be you know, everybody has their struggles and stuff, but just because nobody's saying they're having issues doesn't mean that they're not having issues. If Joe Blow, that's usually a happy guy, is firing his bag across the office, and he's usually pretty chill, might be wound up, right? Like,
Mhm.
might need to just have a shoot the shit chat with him, right? Ask him to go for a coffee. I know one of our managers did that to me one day, meant a lot. I was just like, was like, hey man, we go for a scoot? And I'm like, oh, I'm fucked now. Like, where he's taking me for a drive, I'm in trouble. And it was just to check in. Hey man, like, how's it going? You've been here a few years. How you been? Like, just meant a ton, right? So I think that's a big positive for sure, right? But there needs to be changes. And I think people speaking out about it, and it helps a lot.
Yeah, I'm pretty partial to like I like conversations. I that was like one of
Hmm.
my biggest drives to start a podcast, other than the fact that I just consume podcasts when I'm not making my own.
Yeah,
It's just
that's what I'm saying.
I was like, I just
Yeah.
want to vocalize certain things so that, because for me, one of the biggest things, like, dude, you had panic attacks because you were dealing with actual issues. I've had panic attacks at
Hmm.
desk jobs where I'm curled up like fetal position under my desk, like, and so like for people that are like where I was, like I just wanted to be able to say things like that so that people listening were like, oh shit, I'm not the only one. I'm not fucking crazy.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? But people like you doing this with podcasts was huge for me too. Being like I remember we just got back from a cross country trip. We went out to the CrossFit Games in Wisconsin. We just did a big old road trip with the rooftop tent.
Yeah.
It was wicked. Yeah, it was 7,000 kilometers and 80 hours of driving and fucking amazing. But listen to podcasts and I was listening to these different ones and people were just talking about the issues they were having, and I died laughing because I looked over and Chris, my partner's there looking right at me, and she's like, "Well, that's you." And I was like, "Fuck, it is." Like, it was another member that was having, issues, was through a traumatic incident, and I was like, "That's like to the T. Like, what the hell?" Like, and it was crazy. But it was so. And even speaking with vendors at the venue that were retired members that left, and they were just so supportive, and I think people being open about it and being like, yeah, man, like that's common. That's totally okay. This happens, that happens, blah, 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 is just huge. Voicing it and feeling like you're not alone. It was so refreshing. And like hearing podcasts like yours, and I know like Enduring the Badge, they've been great. Blue Line Radio, like Squad Room, like we used to listen to those all the time, Police, and me and my partner used to listen to it so much that we get to the point where we're like, okay, we got to turn on some old punk rock or something. We got to get it because we're just listening to cop shit while we're driving around in our police car, right?
Doing
So
cop shit, listening to cop shit.
yeah,
The
yeah,
fucking
yeah. But
cops,
just no,
dude. Get back to the station,
but
throw on
just
some cops, watch some cops. Fuck
but
yeah.
I think that like people breaking down those barriers, right? Getting people on their podcasts and letting them uh, show like that you're not alone is huge. It's fucking so good.
Yeah. And for anyone that's heard me say this before, it's fucking annoying, but I always repeat this. But it's like, it's crazy that we all walk around with this mask of like, I'm doing good, but then every single human being is like not good at certain points, and then is like we still feel this need to be like, yeah, no, all good here, don't all good,
All
yep,
good.
everything's all good. And we play this game of like thinking everyone else is all good, so we have to pretend to be all good. But that's the
Yeah.
separating factor between all of us is like, no, it's okay. You're not all good. That's fine. Like that's literally
Yeah.
every one of us dealt with it. Like it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
I make this like image in my head of like 100 people standing in a room, and then one guy's like, "Yo, I'm not good," and then everyone turns to him and
Yeah.
is like, "Yeah, me too." Like we're none of
Yeah.
us are
Me too,
good.
man. Yeah. I remember I had somebody one time told me that, a story, and they were like, yeah, I had a crazy panic attack. I was like, oh, fuck, I know. Whenever I have those, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, you have them? And I was like, yeah. Like, but it's just people don't voice about that, right? And, you know, but then now that person's somebody that I reach out to whenever, if I'm struggling or whatever. And, it's just, yeah, you need, there's sports need to be in place, but I think people need to be, there is that stigma to it, right? Like you said, with employers, right? People don't want to get put off, but you got to make sure you go home at the end of the day, and you got to make sure you have a long life, and you know that you make it the best you can.
Yeah, 100%. It's
Yeah,
so like imagine any other bodily function that you try and hide. Like imagine being like, yo, I'm not hungry.
yeah,
And you're like, bro,
yeah,
bro, it's okay. We all feel hungry. Like, no, I'm not hungry,
yeah.
man. I'm good.
I'm not hungry. Good. I don't want that. That
I-
KD looks awful.
yeah.
Yeah,
We're like, no, I don't have to pee. I'm good. You're like, you sure,
yeah,
man? Like, it's completely normal. No, I'm all
yeah.
good, man.
It's and it's crazy too. Like, and I really like whenever I'm digging into stuff and research and shit. Like, it's crazy to see how much our mind controls. Well, it controls everything, but how much control it has over your body, right? And that goes back to what you were saying about whenever you're training, you go into that. I always call it that place where you're just like, your ears are fucking ringing and you're just gasping for air, and you're like, we go and keep going,
Yeah, yeah.
So, but it's a mindset thing, and if you can train your mind to be strong and resilient and be able to push through that, like your mind controls everything. So, it's that's kind of a big factor, right? If you can train it and, yeah, it's crazy though. Whenever you think of it, you're like, your fucking mind controls like everything. So if that's going squirrely, like, right, you get the sweats or you have the GI tract issues because you're, it's all connected, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's dude, it's so insane, man. I've had times where like my body starts going into shock and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, can I get myself out of this with my thoughts?
Yeah,
You feel bad if
yeah.
you can't do it. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Tunnel vision starts coming in. And,
yeah, yeah,
cold
yeah,
sweats, man. That's
yeah.
that's crazy. I was gonna ask you what what area would you say, like we were talking about factors earlier, like what area would you attribute the most amount of progress from for yourself? Like was it from sleep, was it from nutrition, was it a culmination of
I
everything
think,
all
yeah,
at
it was.
once?
Yeah, I think it was honestly, I just started like bit by bit, right? Like I knew I was going to the gym every day, so I knew I kind of had that squared away. I just had to keep doing it. Um, I was like, all right, if I'm tired, I'm gonna sleep. If I'm, hungry, I'm gonna eat, but I'm gonna try to be nutritious. I'm not gonna have, God, I love a good Belgian Eggo. You know what I mean? Like I'm not buying any because I'm gonna eat them, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
like I just tried everything I could to give myself the best odds of having a full recovery, right? So I just kind of like bit by bit, like I slept a lot. And a lot of that too is because my body was just burnt out from just hypervigilance and just bouncing around, and my nervous system was just exhausted here and there. Um, but yeah, I think that was just it wasn't like one thing just took off. I just kind of picked away at it, right? If you're having shitty sleep, you're not going to have a good training day. So I made sure I had good sleep so I could get a good training day. Um, if you're not going to be doing PRs at the gym if you're hungover, so I made sure I got that in check, right? Like just kind of made sure I was doing everything I could.
Yeah, yeah. We're approaching the hour and a half mark out of respect for your time. I know you're quite a few hours ahead of me. Did you have
That's all
anything that
good,
you
man.
wanted to discuss or anything that we didn't really hit on or
No, it was good. Yeah. The only thing I'd say is if anybody wants to reach out, if they're like everything with Resilience Through Fitness is all online. So they can go over to the website if they want, resiliencethroughfitness.com, or they can hit me up on Instagram. I'm on Facebook too, but I even got a Spotify playlist. So if you're ever wanting to crush a good workout, yeah.
unreal?
So just I'm always here if anybody wants to, reach out, or if they're ever even like with some training questions, or where do I even start with a gym, right? Like I don't care if you do CrossFit or you're into bodybuilding or you're into hiking, like we can make it work. So I'm always available too if anybody wants to go down that road.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. And actually, you guys have a good website, man. I wanted to compliment your website. I
Yeah.
went and I checked it
Thanks,
out when
buddy.
I checked it out
Yeah.
like an hour before we started recording because we just kind of it was kind of impromptu of like, yo, you good to go for the
Yeah.
day? I was like, yeah, I'm good to go for the day. And then I was like, I'm gonna
I was
check
sitting
out,
out at the fire pit.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna check out more of this guy's website and look through everything. I looked through every page. I'm like, this is legit, dude. I like this. It's
Yeah.
cool that it's
It
not just
it
like
took
buy my shit. You know, like that some websites you go
yeah.
on, you're like, buy my shit. You're like, all right, I get it, man.
Yeah, yeah, legit. I built that all up. And that I remember whenever I told my girlfriend, I was like, build a website. And she's like, what? I was like, build a website. She's like, when did you learn how to build a website? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just learning.
You're
And
like,
she's like,
right
how are you learning?
fucking
I'm like,
now.
I'm just fucking figuring it out, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a labor of love for sure, right? So, and I wanted to convey that, right? I didn't want to be like, buy my stuff. I wanted people to be like, this guy's been through something. He genuinely wants to help me, and make it as streamlined as possible for them to get a hold of me if they need anything, right?
Yeah, I love that it seems like you've come to a pretty similar conclusion that I've come to. And I don't know if you've um put words to this or said it or written it down or read it or anything like that, but it's not an original idea, but just the idea of like I think helping other people is going to help heal me. Like, I might not be
Yeah,
through
100%.
this yet, but I think that just this is the right path of like I want to get a little bit better and lift other people up along the way.
Yeah, I think that's been so. Yeah, you're right. Like it does help me a ton, right? Like you see clients that are struggling, right? They're like maybe hitting a plateau or just like fucking bagged, right? And you're like, all right, we'll just phase this out because your bot, right? The big thing is like you got to train your clients for like deep health and that overall health, right? So that your overall body's good. And like if somebody's stressed at home and then they had a shitty day at work, well, I'm going to adjust the training so that they're not at the gym trying to do a 1 rep max overhead squat or something, or or going to make them run a 5K for time. Like they're probably going to already be at an elevated state. Like we don't need to do that. So having that awareness, I think, has been so nice to see like that it works and seeing the results with clients and seeing how happy they are. It's just like, it's just fucking great. I love it whenever clients hit their PRs, or even if they're not hitting PRs, if they're happy, that's fucking beauty. That's what we want, right?
Yeah, yeah. 100%, man. I love that.
Yeah.
I fitness has always been a pretty integral part of my life, and it sounds like probably yours as well. So it's no matter what you're doing, whether it is like CrossFit, bodybuilding, martial arts, or I don't know what other sports other people play, but just seeing that progress and also calibrating your intensity to the rest of your
Yeah.
life is so important,
Yeah.
man.
And that's a big thing, like with my programs, is I make sure that if you're a shift worker or you're a rotational worker, because I used to work out on camps out west in Alberta. So like I understand the shift work of, being gone for 21 days, you're home for 7. 2 of those days are traveling. Good luck getting a training day in there. And like understanding that and tailoring the program to that. So like right now I'm working like, training at the gym and working hypertrophy, trying to get back to a consistent training, but I'm also trying to phase up my running. So I'm obviously not going to do my 1 hour run or my 1.5 hour run on the day that I'm doing heavy legs or, like, and it's the same thing with, right? It's the same thing as shift work, right? I'm not going to get a client on their first day off to go in and do whatever that's crazy intense. I'm going to put that something that's easier for them. So I think that's been I've really enjoyed that, seeing how well it works so that you're not overtraining and that all parts of your life are kind of in check. Yeah, that's been good.
That's wicked, man. Um,
Yeah,
to wrap things up and just kind of finish off on like a nice little note. Do you have maybe an inspiring or an uplifting message, or maybe like some tips or like the quick advice you could give to somebody that's maybe struggling or suffering, or just an uplifting message?
I think that just don't lose that win mentality. Train to win, like those are things that I really just fucking grabbed onto. Just never, never give up the fight. Just keep fucking plugging away. And if it's making that first step to doing fitness and stuff, just make that first step, go for that first walk in the morning, go for, or if it's a nutrition thing, just your body's gonna your body's gonna choose to have the unhealthy stuff if the unhealthy stuff's there. I know for a fact that if there was a pack of Timbits out there, they'd be gone. So I don't get the Timbits at the house, right? So, like I'm aware of that, right? So it's my weakness, right? So you just got to make those choices and then just baby steps. You're not going to get any like actions are what's going to get you the results. Can be consistent with it. Don't go to the gym for a week and then think you're going to be able to curl big weight. Like you got to be consistent with it. It'll work.
Yeah. I just had to have that conversation. Well, it's an ongoing conversation. I don't get to make a lot of decisions, but I was just having that conversation with my girlfriend today. I was like, I bought one chocolate bar. I'm like, this is the chocolate for the week. Like, I cannot have that shit around because I don't know how to just have a little bit. I don't. That's not how I roll.
Yeah.
Like, I had to stop drinking for that purpose because it's like I'm not having 3 chips. I'm having 3 bags.
Yeah.
Like that's the way I roll. Like it's so
I hear you, man.
I'm like, yo, we just have to have like fruits, veggies, and meat, and I'll be good, man. Like I can't have fucking cake.
I still remember. I still remember one day my girlfriend goes downstairs to the downstairs freezer. Never goes to that one, right? So I had it all set up. I had Belgian waffles, pizza pockets, all the goodies. And she moved my nice little pyramid and seen it all. She's like, "What the hell?" I'm like, "I'm sorry."
I need
like, right? I'm like, I don't, right? She's like, but then just don't bring it into the house and you're not going to eat it. So now, I only eat my Belgian waffles whenever I'm out at a nice restaurant.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, it's like wants versus needs. You're like, I need it. I actually need this.
It's Haagen-Dazs is on sale. Let's just go over there.
It's a necessity. Reese's, that's my fucking weakness, man. Reese's.
Oh yeah, that's hers too. Yeah. Ice cream cake, buddy. Every Christmas, I'm like, I got to bring the stretchy pants to supper because I'm not going to be able to move. So,
fuck, man.
Yeah.
That's my biggest.
Yeah, that'd be my
food. But I love that idea of just consistency and understanding that it's like we're not looking for 50% of an improvement today. How about just 1? How about just if we can make 2% this month, we're good. It's still positive progress.
Yeah, and it's nice too. Like I loved whenever, people that have stressful jobs or people that have a busy home life, like it takes all the guesswork out of it. Like the periodization, well, if I'm training for a marathon in September, and well, when do I phase up my running? Well, when do I do this? When do I do that? When do I do it with my shift? Like, it takes all the guesswork out of it. Like, I sit here like just, and I like figure out the dates and figure out all the, how many weeks on this and where the weakness is, and it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. So then it's one less stress, right? So that you can be consistent. It just, you pull up the app and it's right there. And then if they don't know what the workout is, they hit the play button, shows them what it is. And it's just easy. You just got to get there. Just got to get to the gym, right?
Yeah.
Or do your homework out. Whatever works, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, fucking that's been the mantra of my fitness for the last like 3 years is like do
Yeah.
something. Do something.
Just something. Yeah.
Fucking anything. I used to have a strength and conditioning coach in high school who'd, if he walked into the weight room and we were like talking, he'd just scream like, do something, like anything, like anything, literally anything. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Do something. All right.
Yeah,
I'll
do something.
Just fucking something, man. That's hilarious.
That's wicked. I like it.
Mr. Schmidt, man. Shout outs to Mr. Schmidt. But he'll never hear this. But anyway. Thank you so much, man. Deven, I really appreciate this conversation and your time, man. I
appreciate it, brother. Yeah.
Today. I was stoked.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. It was definitely impromptu, but I really appreciate you reaching out too, and just I'm glad I got to be on the cast. And if you ever want to reach out, man, and if you're ever shooting the shit someday with a double IPA and you want to,
I actually don't
beer?
drink. I don't drink, actually.
Hey,
I'll have an NA beer with you, man.
Yeah. Let's do it. All right. Yeah. So reach out anytime, man. I'm always here, and I'll make time for you, brother.
100%, man. Likewise. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, for sure, bud. All right, you go enjoy the rest of your night.
You as well. Much love and peace out, brother.
Always, buddy. Cheers.